Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we spend 1 week highlighting an up-and-coming North American player. Throughout the week, we find out more about the player's history, their personality, and their playstyle over the course of 6 short episodes. On Monday, we'll interview the player and find out more about them. Tuesday through Thursday, we'll watch a game from each of the various matchups casted by your very own Fear Dragon. On Friday, we'll check out a generally awesome game with some sick play, and on Saturday, we'll kick it back with the player and have some wacky fun with some randomly selected events like handicap ladder matches, karaoke, and dance contests. Each episode aims to be about 20 to 30 minutes long, so you can learn more about the North American StarCraft 2 scene without interrupting your busy WCS schedule. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American players that you need to know about. Today, we have a very special guest on the show. It is a player that has actually been to the top of North America. They have been in WCS Premier League and he's an awesome Protoss player from the United States of America. Welcome onto the show, Fnatic Gaming's Hellokitty. How you doing today, Hellokitty?
I'm doing great. Got my new shirt actually like in the mail like 2 days ago, yesterday, and I'm really
It looks
happy.
good, man. I have to say, like, of every single team jersey, including like Team Liquid, who a lot of people kind of like wear their team jersey and everything, I have to say Fnatic definitely has the best colors.
Thank you.
But yeah, let me just kind of give a little bit of a breakdown about Breaking Out for those of you who are kind of tuning in for the first time or maybe just want to know a little bit more about it. So basically, Breaking Out is a show, again, about North American players. So we spend 1 week highlighting a single North American player every week, and it goes on from Monday through Saturday, and you can see over here on the schedule, we go through Monday. We're going to be doing an interview with a player. That's going to be today. Today, we're obviously looking at Fnatic Hellokitty. And of course, Tuesday through Thursday, we're going to go over each one of the matchups and cast one game from each of these matchups. Now, Hellokitty has picked out some great games that he's going to be have submitted to me, and I will go ahead and cast those. And of course, on Friday, we're just going to cast a generally awesome game. Could be from any matchup, so definitely tune in for that one. And Saturday, we're just going to relax, have a little bit of fun, maybe do some karaoke, maybe do some dancing, maybe play some arcade games. We'll have to wait and see. And of course, Hellokitty has no idea what it's going to be until basically we show up for it. So you get to have a little bit of fun with that, man. you get the surprise on that.
Awesome.
But I mean, let's go ahead and get this interview started. So, Hellokitty, where did that name come from? Are you a big Hellokitty fan? Do you have a Hellokitty iPhone case? Like, what's the deal with it?
I used to play a lot of Brood War, and when I first transitioned to StarCraft 2, I wasn't really a big fan of it or supporter of it because I was a Caspa loyal follower. And I decided that I want to, if I want to play StarCraft 2, I'm gonna troll people because I know I'm mechanically a lot better than most of the players. And so whoever loses to someone whose name is Hello Kitty is just it's like this degrading, and they're just gonna BM you straight up, and then it's the funniest thing ever. And but ever since I started getting good, like the IDs start getting a little more recognition, so I just kind of stuck with it, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually really, really funny. I mean, did you ever pretend to be like a 9-year-old girl or something? And it's like, wow, you just lost to like a 9-year-old girl. How do you feel about yourself?
Not so much. It's because
Okay.
I still have a little bit of
Still have some standards.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I actually noticed another name that you have been using, at least on, say, like your Twitch stream and stuff, is a Noob Eater 5. So what's the story behind that?
It's just an idea I made, I think in like 6th grade or something. And I actually just stuck with it just because it's like a username that nobody will ever take. And it's just like a unique name that I'll always remember. And I don't know, it's pretty funny. People ask me about that all the time. It's like, why is your name Noob Eater? Or is it Noob No Beater? Or is it Noob Eater? You know? People get confused with that.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
I can definitely feel you on that. Like, even my name, I definitely have retained since like 4th grade or something. And randomly people will be asking me about it, and I'm like, yeah, I made a name about dragons, and it has the word fear in front of it. What do you think? I made it when I was 4th grade, or like 8 years old or something. But yeah, that totally understand that. And of course, the unique name also a huge advantage. But Yeah, just kind of moving straight along. What got you started in esports? Like, of course, again, you mentioned that you kind of played Brood War quite a bit before. So was that your first esports game?
Not actually, no. My first competitive esports game was Counter-Strike, and that
Hmm.
was actually like Cow I almost when I was
Oh
at my
wow.
peak. And then I decided to switch to StarCraft Brood War, and it was really competitive. I really enjoy watching all the pros in Korea, like Flash Jadon, Effort, like Siscal. Most people probably don't know who he is, but I really got into it because it's super challenging. Like the thing about video games for me, I guess, is how competitive it is, and the more competitive it is, the more fun I enjoy playing it. And that's how I started to get into the esports, I guess. And I got like super good at Brood War, transitioned to StarCraft 2, and found out that I'm pretty decent at it, and just decided to go with the esports scene because I really love it, and I really want to make an impact in the esports scene in my career.
Hmm. Do you still play any first-person shooters like Counter Strike at all?
Not so much, just because it actually does affect you physically,
Hmm.
and your mechanics gets a little bit screwed up when you play FPS and RTS at the same time.
Hmm. Huh? I actually never thought about that, but I guess that makes sense. I can't even think of that many like StarCraft players that say that they play a lot of first-person shooters outside of maybe like DJ Wheat, but then again, he's not really playing StarCraft at a professional level.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, cool. And I'm this is totally random, but did like Fnatic obviously is a great team for a lot of first-person shooter games. Like, did that influence your view of Fnatic when you kind of got into joining it at all?
Yeah, I mean the name itself is really big, just because they've been I guess around for like 10 years now or
Hmm.
something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard of them before in just, CS like 1.6 even, and it's like a great name. I watched them play before, and it's like a great pleasure just to be on a team that as a child I used to, I guess, admire a lot,
Hmm.
and it's just like a pleasure to be on the team.
That's totally fair. And kind of moving into a different topic, does your family know about what you do and your involvement in esports at all? And if they don't know, why haven't you really told them?
They actually do know.
Hmm.
Some of my family members strongly disagree with my time usage, just because I'm currently at one of the top universities in the whole world, University of Texas, Austin, and they
Oh
wanted me
wow.
to focus on school a lot more than a mere, gaming thing that they see. But I kind of explained to them, and I showed them some of the results, like some of the money I earned, and then I don't really have to necessarily spend like full-time gamers that spend maybe 8 to 10 hours a day practicing, and I can
Hmm.
get almost the same amount of results. And I'm getting a big fan base, so that makes me kind of like a celebrity. And
Hmm.
they eventually kind of see it as in they pass it as okay, but Asian
Hmm.
parents are generally not okay with their kids going to programming.
Yeah, that's I definitely am familiar with that stereotype, and I've found it to be true in a lot of cases as well. But yeah, so you mentioned that you're a student. What are you like majoring in, and I mean, what are your plans to do with that? What do you plan to do with that degree?
I actually major in economics, and
Hmm.
it's it's kind of a broad topic, but I kind of want to do something along with esports with that major, like just to help the scene grow. A lot of people nowadays in esports, the ones that are in position for, for example, like sponsors, teams, and such, they don't really have a degree in the field they're doing.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it's and when you have a degree in the field you're doing, you're really good at it. You're really passionate about it. It's good to, I guess, how do you say it? I guess it's good for me to influence esports in the future once
Hmm.
and I still want to be like a pro gamer as well, regardless of whether I take a position in some sort of major esports role and such.
Okay.
So
Cool. And that's definitely really admirable to kind of take that stance because I know a lot of people have tried to maybe juggle, say, like school along with being a pro gamer, or even maybe sometimes full time jobs along being a pro gamer. So if you can manage to do that, that's absolutely awesome, and I highly encourage you to do that. But especially, I highly encourage you to just get a degree because, as you said, like it adds so much value to you, even beyond just being a pro gamer, of course. But I mean, as you are in school right now, walk me through like what your average day is like.
Well, right now I'm taking like not full time just
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of want to. I have a lot more personal stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
besides, video games in school. I pretty much just wake up, go to class, finish some errands from school organizations, which I'm really active in, and then I get home maybe 4 or 5 p.m. and play some games, watch some streams, maybe go run actually. I'm actually a
Mm-hmm.
big runner. I train to run
Oh,
marathons. And
wow.
yeah, so that's like maybe like an hour or two out of my every day as well.
Mm-hmm.
And but bef after that, maybe homework and some practice games. So it's like it's pretty tight schedule, but it's manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed. I think it was your Skype photo that just shows you without your shirt on. You just have like those six pack abs just bulging out. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. So it's actually really awesome to see more people who care actually about their health while still also doing this kind of like pro gaming business. Um, but yeah, just kind of moving right along then. I have to ask. Some people do consider you like they encounter you maybe on the ladder and such, and they say like Hello Kitty is a bit more of a cheesy player. So I mean, is that something that you kind of embrace, or do you say like no, they just that's only on the ladder, or is it more of a I throw in the cheese to keep people honest or to make myself unpredictable?
I think it's a little bit of everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not my style to cheese that much, but if you can't hold my cheese, why should I change my builds, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, it's a ladder game. Like you
Mm-hmm.
you're practicing different builds for a reason on ladder, especially as Protoss. You can't be the macro-oriented player every single game and expect to win, tournaments or ladder games even.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes yourself too predictable, as you're saying. I do recently I've been doing a little more macro-oriented builds, but
Mm-hmm.
I've started to go back to my roots slightly just because people are playing way too greedy against me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just something it's like really frustrating when you play on ladder when people tries to blind counter you, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just the most annoying thing ever. Like you don't learn anything out of ladder games when people just plays one dimensional and not like plays blindly. That's what most of the people on A does. And it's like really frustrating to play against. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
cheese maybe like 30% of the time now compared to like 99% of the time before.
I'm sure that's one of the disadvantages of becoming more and more of a well-known player, especially since people get to not only see you play in WCS, like say Premier League or Challenger League or wherever tournaments that you're entering, but then they get to see your play style. They see like, oh well, this person has such and such times I can just exploit. So, but you did bring up a really interesting topic, and you said almost specifically like, as a Protoss player, you feel like you can't really jump into just going that super macro oriented build style as maybe say a Zerg player would normally be able to. And do you feel like that's a pretty accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, Protoss it's fundamentally based on build orders.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I mean, like you can't just do what Terran and Zerg does with one. They don't have a Protoss doesn't have a really stable build order
Mm-hmm.
compared to the other two races. So you have to mix it up slightly. And then if you get caught with your pants down, then you it's pretty much game over. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, compared to other races, I think Protoss is it's fundamentally different from the other two races. I don't necessarily think it's weaker, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more strategy based compared to mechanical based.
That's actually a really interesting way of putting it, and I kind of like it. Um, but moving into another topic is, you know, what do you consider so far up until this point has been your biggest achievement in StarCraft Two?
Definitely beating a Korean on like maybe like 20,000 30,000 viewers on live stream. And that was
Mm-hmm.
just probably the most impressive part about being a gamer, just because I actually have nerve issues whenever I play on live or in like a local LAN tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was a big change, especially after like a huge deficit. I lost like 2-0, and then I was on the verge of getting beat out by Hart, and I was lost the first game, and then I decided to try my macro-oriented styles and managed to bring the game back 2-1, which was
Wow.
probably literally like it's a moral boost, and it just feels amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually super impressive. And the fact that you're saying like you brought back the series doing macro oriented builds, it wasn't kind of like you were doing macro oriented builds and you felt like you were getting outplayed, so then you like started cheesing them to try and take games. It was like actually the opposite, where you said like, hey, I'm gonna try and play you like in this macro oriented build, which a lot of people kind of say like, hey, that takes a little bit more, not necessarily just skill, but it takes a different type of proof of your skill level, I guess. So being able to match up a Korean, that's awesome. That's totally fair. Do you remember who that was actually?
It was Axiom Heart, I think.
Oh yeah, that was actually in your. That was that in Challenger League or
No, that was the Premier League
Premier League? Hmm.
of the first season.
Yeah, I mean Hart was actually been a beast, and Hart. I always thought Hart was like the heartbreaker. That's what I always considered him, because he'd always eliminate like a lot of really awesome players. So glad you could overcome that. Um, But yeah, so with that being said, let's talk a little bit about Team Fnatic. I mean, we kind of discussed it a little bit earlier on, and what sort of appealed to you about it, because Fnatic obviously a bigger team. But I mean, tell us a little bit about how that whole recruitment happened. Like, how did you land on Team Fnatic?
I pretty much me and the manager for like No Name or Elray,
Mm-hmm.
we had a really really good synergy as soon as we started talking. I was reached out by a lot of people, and I kind of try to put myself out there, be like, hey guys, I'm looking for a team, and
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, and then I talked to Elray, and we clicked in like the first like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and he's just a great guy. It looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. The teammates are great. I talked to like Hearthstone before I like
Mm-hmm.
decided to join as well, and he's just like a fantastic guy, and probably the best teammate you can ever have as just a player in general.
Mm-hmm. So your teammates definitely like influenced you in the decision to join Team Fnatic a lot.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, is that like is that so that was that one of the main reasons why you joined Fnatic? It was being able to have those, not just teammates but also practice partners and those kind of options available to you, or were there a lot of other elements involved also?
Well, my previous teams, they weren't really player centric, even though
Mm-hmm.
like some of the managers did try to help us out, but it's on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Fnatic in general, they really care about you as an individual, and they care about how you feel and your successfulness, not just based on paper. It's like how you feel, like they want you to be happy just being on the team, just being
Mm-hmm.
with like it's like a family. They just want you to be happy, and they want you to know that they care a lot, and they want you to do well. Even though sometimes, like if you're just disappointed at results, which I'm pretty sure all
Mm-hmm.
the players that compete does. Like I'm really one of those emotional players
Mm-hmm.
when I lose, and I always get cheered up by all my teammates and my manager, and it's like the greatest feeling you can have as a player. It's just wonderful.
That's actually great to hear, and that's actually a side of Fnatic that I don't actually hear too much about. So, it's wonderful to hear more stories about those kind of team environments where people actually do care about you. It's not just kind of like some ambiguous organization that's just saying, "Well, here's some sponsorships, now go advertise for us, so we can give you some like money to keep doing it." Like, that's actually really great to hear, and I think that's an important element of actually building those results. But okay, let's play a little bit of role playing games. Do you play any RPGs?
I actually used to play WoW kind of competitively, not that much though.
Okay, okay. So you're all right. Let's say that there's a human like warlock. Okay, there's a human warlock, and his name is Dustin Browder. Okay, now Dustin Browder is eating an orcish burger. Okay, but he bites into the burger, and there's actually a stray rock in there. So when he bites into it, he actually breaks 17 bones in his body and is unable to be the head of Activision or head of Blizzard, anyways. Right? So he can no longer head StarCraft 2. they decide to pick you, Hello Kitty, as the new manager of StarCraft 2. So, what changes do you make to the anything in StarCraft 2? It could be WCS, could be the UI, could be the game balance. You could give more unit stance moves. Like, what would you do with this?
Um, well, I guess the most important one we should address is more or less have you want to have a pro gaming committee, pro gamer
Hmm.
committee in general, to like address the issues that are in the community in general. Like right now, you just I think their balance team testers were like diamond level players or something, and
Hmm.
that's just really not that's not a good standard for a balance team tester. And I think you should just have a Blizzard should just have a like a sector that's dedicated to all pro gamers around the world.
Hmm.
Like everybody would say before, Hellbats are nerfed. Like every single pro gamer complained about it for like maybe like 3 or 4 months before they balanced it. So that was not really timely by Blizzard. Like I think Mm, just everything in general, they should have a pro gamer community. Like for example, I can voice my opinion all about WCS and how crappy it is this year, like how dominated by Korean it was. It was just that's not the goal of like WCS, but if you have a community that can just voice their opinion constantly and get these changes like when go through the ratification a little faster, it would be definitely a lot better. I guess that's what I'm trying to get into.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting thought. And kind of on that note of like, for example, you mentioned the balance committee being like a committee of like a lot of diamond level players. Would you say that? I guess how should I put this? So Blizzard releases like say the balance maps, right? The balance test change maps, and oftentimes I've heard that a lot of pro gamers opt not to play those maps because they say, well, if the changes aren't going to be, a finalized thing, it's not a guaranteed change, then putting time and investing into playing a map where the game might not actually ever be like that for a tournament at any point is almost like a waste of time for them. So, do you think that there would still be enough interest from pro gamers and high level players to actually do something like that?
If you make it exclusive,
Hmm.
that's how I feel. Or like you should make um the opinions of pro gamers more exclusive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just because like for example, like the Oracle changes or anything like that, you play in the balanced map and then when you're playing a real map, like a actual competition, you're mechanically your brain just the train of thought is my Oracle speed change. The buff is already in. Like you
Hmm.
go in and then, I lost my Oracle. What the hell? That actually
Yeah.
cost you the game. Like that's I think what most pro gamers are worried about. It's the mentality that can change just from the balance maps.
Hmm. That's definitely an interesting way to think about all of that. So is that like the main change that you would end up doing then, or would you change anything else about like say WCS or?
WCS needs a lot of changes, but
Hmm.
like I think the most important thing again is a lot of people say region lock. There's half how the people support region lock, half people don't.
Hmm.
And I can see where both of them are coming from. But then as like a entertainer and a esports growth, supporter,
Hmm.
um I really believe in strong region locks just because like okay, everybody will want to see like top tier games, right? But then do you really want here is something that's like really controversial, but I can ask like all the viewers out there, do you really want to see a foreigner representing your country or your continent to play against other foreigners? Like that's I guess the kind of question I should ask. Like do you really see yourself being represented by somebody who doesn't know your culture, who doesn't speak your language, who doesn't live in your country, and who doesn't give a crap about your continent besides your money? Like, right? Like, you should ask yourself these kind of questions. That's why I support Region Lock a little more and the growth. Like, most of us are gamers, like in the net, we're definitely not as compete we're not as what is that called? Competitive
Yeah.
as
Hmm.
Korean gamers just because we weren't born into the esports era of Korea. And since we're so as like a lot more spread out as well, we don't have the team league, the communication, the network. Like they have their own like they have like 20,000 like TV shows for like video games in Korea compared to here, which is like probably like two, I think, maybe or one
Hmm.
even. I'm not sure. And we just don't have the correct environment to grow and develop, and we're thrown into the ocean with a bunch of Koreans that's just born with this kind of culture embraced in them. It's just it's more or less I wouldn't say it's unfair, but it's kind of dumb. Just like it's
Hmm.
not competition. It's not encouraging competition at all. It's demotivating a lot of players. Like some of the players, like Complexy Sasquatch, like he didn't get into WCS, I think, and he's just so like I talked to him a few times, and he's just like super demotivated to play. And like that's how I feel right now. Like I feel really really demotivated to play. But I mean, I still do it just because I really love the game. I love esports. I want to play. I like to make people rage, but it's not necessarily like fun. It's
Hmm.
not you're not motivated to practice. You're not playing against people who are better on North America ladder. And then when you play on Korea, you have like 300 lag, which it's not a big deal for me, but it doesn't show like me my true skill because I can still be a Korean grandmasters easily with 300 MS. But it doesn't help the fact that NA is just dying. Like if you look at the ladder, like it's so stagnant and there's nobody good on like the top 16 grandmaster ever. So and then they never play. So it's like I don't know. The scenes definitely went down, but I think Region Lock will bring it back slightly, even though there are some supporters and haters. And I'll probably get a bunch of hates for exactly what I just said. But it's whatever.
I think that's actually a fantastic opinion, and it's something that I haven't heard at all. Actually, it's the idea of, do you think that these people are actually representing your culture? Because you think about things like, I mean, it's obviously like a stretch out there from where we are right now, but you think about things like the Olympics, and a lot of like take like the dancing aspect of the Olympics, like a lot of those things like people bring their culture into their actual like acts and everything. And if we want esports to maybe go to like those high levels of that kind of global stage, like I think that is a really important aspect, is that you are representing United United States, or you are representing Canada, or you are representing like Sweden, not just having somebody who is living in Korea like that flies out for like 3 weeks or something play. So that's actually a really interesting point. And of course, I'll let all the viewers kind of come up with their own opinions, but from that. But I think you definitely made a really strong case for it. But I would love actually to talk about this. I could probably talk with you about this for 2 hours, but we're gonna try and keep this a little bit on the shorter side. So let's kind of jump into your actual gameplay, because that's what a lot of people are gonna be here to see. So I mean, walk me through the different matchups: PvP, PvT, PvZ. How do you feel about your gameplay in them, and I guess your play style in them?
Actually, I'm not very comfortable with any of the matchups right now.
Oh
Just
wow.
just because they're pretty equal, like when it comes to win or lose your show.
Hmm.
I think PvP in general, it's still very coin flippy, and most pro gamers nowadays they try there's a bunch of builds that punishes no scouting, and then if you get scouted early, you pretty much lose. So it's pretty coin flippy, and then like your tech and build order really determines your early to mid into late game. I actually talked to Jim from IG yesterday,
Hmm.
and people were kind of criticizing him for, having a aggressive early game or early game lead and stuff like that. He plays early game, right? And
Hmm.
his reasoning behind that is if you can't have a lead in early game, how are you going to be able to catch up in mid game and late game? Like how are you going to be how do you expect to win like mid to late game at a very or at against a player who is equally as skilled as you are? Like it's like almost impossible. That's why he plays early game. And then early game is kind of coin flippy unless you're like the aggressor. Even then that's still pretty coin flippy.
Hmm.
But I think in general, I enjoy the matchup. I like the different openings,
Hmm.
and I favor a aggressive style, I guess just a rush style to at least see where your opponent's tech is, or where your opponent's tech is, what your opponent is doing, and then fall back up with a strong macro behind it. I guess it's my PvP. PvT, like I have a more of a one-dimensional style when it comes to just straight up macro, but my all-ins are definitely well known on ladder, especially with like Oracle all-ins, Void Red all-ins, Blink all-ins. Sometimes I throw in a proxy like Robo all-in, stuff like that. But I generally go with like a Phoenix Colossus style, which the IG Protoss have been using a lot. And there's a little bit of variation in that, but I think in general PvT Terran is pretty good. Their speed medvacs are very good, and then the way the Blizzard changed them in Heart of Swarm made the Reaper stronger. So there's a lot of openings you can't really do as Protoss anymore. And also the medevac drops with Widowmines, you can't really skip out on Robo anymore. I mean you can, but it's just a little risky if your opponent does go for that. Mm, so I just go with either go for a really fast one base all-in. Two base all-ins are terrible against Terran, so I don't do them. And you usually go on three base, play a macro, Colossus, Storm with like Phoenix, and Archons pretty much. And it's pretty much the same as what it was in um when in Wings of Liberty.
Hmm.
And, I'm really comfortable with my game, but it's again like Protoss. If you make one small mistake, it's really costly. Like literally like one really tiny mistake, and you play perfectly entire game, and you can just lose. It's not a really forgiving race compared to the other two. And then Protoss versus Zerg. Right now, I think most of the Protoss are having problems with different tech switches or just sort of timings that Zergs can do nowadays. And like since there's two routes with Gateway and Forge opening, it just depends on each player's play style, I guess. And I do both, and I really like to play aggressive. My trademark for almost every single matchup is actually Dark Templars. Um, it's a
I'm a
really
fan of you, man. I'm a fan of you.
it's a really fun unit, but then it's also like people often tag it as cheesy, but it actually takes a lot of skill to pull it off. Even especially if you get scouted, like when you pull off a build like that, like you can do damage even after you get scouted. That's where like a true player skills comes from. And then PvZ, I generally try to play like a more macro-centric style just because a lot of the all-ins kind of fell off, like the Immortal all-in, the Choo Choo Train, or the Blink all-in. It's kind of just fall out of style, and I just go more for like open up Phoenix, make sure they don't go Midas because Midas OP in Heart of Storm, and go into Colossus and then transition to Archon Storm, Blink Stalker, Colossus, timing all-in, or like just do a macro build and then try to out whittle your opponent, I guess. I mean, I'm more of a, how do you say it? Like I'm not really one dimensional, but I have like a one approach for a game usually, and
You're a
for
very
at least
focused
like,
player.
yeah, like a lot of times I miss out on like the small tiny details, but it's like the general picture I know where I should be going. At least you think about these things before the game start, and as the game progresses, you might change some things.
Hmm. I think that's actually a really great breakdown, and we'll go more into detail on this on Saturday when we do actually do end up doing the full recap on all the games that you actually submitted. We can talk a little bit more in detail about actual real examples that we can kind of go over, and you can give your full thoughts on that. But just kind of moving straight along because I think that we are getting close to running out of time for this. Has there been anything that you want to work on lately that you've been maybe trying to key in on and improve on?
Just more multitasking, better unit control, and have like a better sense of what your opponent's doing. Because a lot of times, like Protoss, we have to focus on playing our own race just because there's so many build orders you have to do.
Hmm.
But you also miss out a lot on like what other races are currently at the point that you're doing such and such. Like for example, like people can tell you probably like if you're going Forge Expand, Zerg will probably pass you on workers by like the 8 minute mark or something like that. But
Hmm.
these are the things that I think I need to work on. Unit control, if I have like really good battle micro, I think I could have won like maybe like 20% more games than what I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
And just better and then better multitasking. Oh, everybody I think wants that.
Yeah. That's a resource that everybody wishes they could throw mules down on. But yeah, cool. And do you consider yourself to have any like really friendly, either friendly or very hated rivals? Like, is there anybody who you would poison if you could?
Mm, not really. I mean,
Hmm.
the people that I think are not good, they generally aren't considered rivals.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty close friends with most of the just gamers in general. I'm especially
Hmm.
close with like the Chinese players, like Hengelus, for example. Sabi is another one. Xenocider, he's a good friend, but sometimes he can be pretty annoying just because he's kind of young.
Hmm.
Um, and then like people I don't really like are the ones that don't really like talk to you. They're not friendly online, but they're really friendly offline. That's like I feel like that's not really the way to go. Like I get pretty mad like especially when someone BMs you online and then
Hmm.
they're like act really friendly to you in real life, right?
Yeah.
Um actually I'm like literally the not the opposite, but I BM online if I don't like you, and I talk shit to your face, like if I don't like you,
At
like
least you're
in
honest
that.
about it, man.
Yeah, like I just don't see the point of BMing online if you're not gonna BM in real life. Like, what's the point of it if you're so chicken to like not do it in real life, you know?
Uh
Like
huh.
you gotta be a man and back up your words, else don't do it.
Oh god. Hashtag Hello Kitty, guys. If you're gonna shit talk someone online, do it to their face. That's actually something to an extent I could get behind. Actually, that's actually a really cool and honest way to approach everything. Um, but yeah, what about just like friendly rivals that you were saying? Like, cause you mentioned some people that you're friendly with. Like, do you consider them like rivals in the sense?
Yeah, all the pro gamers I think in general like that has be taken me out like multiple times in tournaments
Mm-hmm.
are rivals, especially Sapi. We're really close friends.
Mm-hmm.
We hung out whenever I went to LAN Hamburg, which is like a
Oh
few
yeah.
months ago at California. I actually lived at his place. We talked a lot. Friendly rivals, pretty much everybody. Like that's good and competitive. Nobody especially, but I think me and Sapi especially, and then my teammates are really friendly rivals. They're really good, and
Mm-hmm.
whenever we do in houses, it goes like 50-50 all the time, and games are usually pretty close.
That's awesome, man. That's actually really cool to hear. Um, but yeah, I guess just kind of talking a little bit about the future of Hello Kitty. What does the future hold for you? You said that you're pursuing an economics degree, and of course, you're still trying to play full time and everything. I mean, do you intend to at any point go full time into esports as a player, or do you intend to mainly do that as maybe a managerial position at some point?
That's really hard to say, really. It's I guess I can't really give you a definite answer on that, but it's kind of controversial as well, just because my family side is definitely giving me a lot of pressure in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I had to choose, if I had like the perfect whatever I want to do, I would definitely pick pro gaming over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would do both, like for sure. Like how do you know how like the Choya he's a player manager. I kind of want to do
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Just be good at the game, still play a lot, but also be very actively involved in in sports and such.
Hey man, set your mind to it, and I believe that you can do anything like that, especially stuff like Choya and everything. So best of luck to you with that. And one final question, and it's sort of on a similar line of thought. Where do you see yourself in 2 years?
Mm, I think I'll still be very active with esports. Like I see myself being maybe a little more of a public figure than how I am right now, just because I had my breakout performance, I guess, starting this
Mm-hmm.
year, and I think I'll grow a lot more. I'll get like more popular. Hopefully, I'm more of like a real talk person than an entertainer, personality person. I don't like that crap. It's kind of pointless. Like you watch esports for like my opinion of esports is you watch it for both entertainment and also just like how like it's fun, right? But then it's also
Mm-hmm.
really high skill. That's why you can't not everybody can be a pro gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And like most people nowadays, they just look for entertaining personalities and stuff like that. And that's I think eventually I will be popularize the skill factor of video games and hopefully, become one of the figureheads, I guess.
That's awesome to hear. And with that being said, I think we're pretty much finished up. So, Hello Kitty, do you have any shout outs that you want to do?
Yeah, shout out to Fnatic No Name, my manager, for being awesome. Like for he's literally like the most amazing person from Europe I've ever met. And my teammates for helping me practice and motivating me and just in general giving me all the as much resources they can offer for me as a teammate. Shout out to our sponsors, MSI, SteelSeries, EZO, Winamax, Twitch TV, and DX Racer. And shout out to Fnatic for giving me a chance and you know help me become the kind of player, the person I am nowadays. And that's pretty much it.
All right, I'm gonna jump on the DX Racer sponsorship thing because I'm not sponsored by DX Racer, but I just got one and it's fantastic. So highly recommend you guys go ahead and check out that Need for Seat. But with that being said, thank you so much, Hello Kitty, for coming on. It has been wonderfully enlightening and a lot of fun just to have you on and hear your responses to all this. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, we are going to be spending the entire remainder of the week actually looking at exactly what Hello Kitty wants us to look at, and that is his gameplay. So be on the lookout for that. He's an absolutely insanely awesome Protoss player, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So please, guys, check out his PvZ coming up on Tuesday, his PvT coming up on Wednesday, his PvP coming up on Thursday, and then, of course, an awesome game that he's going to submit to us. I'll let you guys find out what matchup that's going to be, and, of course, Saturday, same thing. So, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful night. Hope to see you all tomorrow.